I knew that it was important to continue to show up because you don't know what people are going through. And if we can have that space where people can go through whatever they need to go through and get to the other side, then I think that's the best part of what we're doing.
Hi, I'm Ivy Coco Maurice, and I am the Vice President of WalkGoodLA.
And my name is Namaste Marley Rae, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of WalkGoodLA.
Yeah, it's so funny because sitting in this exact space, we now have a yoga studio, wellness creative studio to be specific, that is located less than 1.5 miles from where we were protesting. So it was really like we turned our protest into purpose, and we really manifested this space. And Marley was the first one when we were like a couple weeks after protesting, we started doing Breathe Good in the Park. She was like, we're going to have a yoga studio one day and I'm going to run it. And my brother and I were like, okay, cool, girl. We love that energy, because what was so beautiful about starting this organization as a family is that we were able to bring together our gifts. Like, we all brought something to the table to make change in our communities. And we knew that there was something bigger than us happening in this world, but we were all feeling it as a collective community. WalkGoodLA really started when my older brother and Marley's cousin Etienne was moved by the death of Ahmaud Arbery, and everybody was outside. They were fighting for Black Lives Matter, saying, we can't breathe, and, Breonna Taylor, say her name. Ahmaud Arbery, say his name. It was just so crazy because at first I was kind of timid and scared. And my brother and I were like, we have to go out. And I remember the first day we went out to a protest, Marley was there handing out waters. And I was like, oh, nah, this is the revolution.
This is before WalkGood started.
WalkGood.
Yeah.
But I think what was happening before really amplified us to say we've got to now start our own movement, because we were all fighting together, but we needed to find ways of healing together. And that's really how WalkGood started.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for a long time, even now, the term the struggle is so ingrained in the story of Black people and Black people in America specifically. And so I think what we're doing at WalkGood is now we're turning that story into a story of healing and purpose, and really shifting the narrative of the struggle into the narrative of we as one people doing better for ourselves, doing better for others, and making a way to really enhance this life that we have while we're here. So WalkGood, as Ivy said, is myself, Ivy Coco, and Etienne Maurice. And we are real family. We are blood family. Yeah. This is my sister cousin. Etienne and Ivy are brother and sister. And so this was always very much ingrained in the way that we were brought up. We come from a family that is of service. We come from a family that is rooted in love and respect and compassion for one another. And so when we step out into the world, we treat others the same exact way. So our purpose and mission at WalkGoodLA is that we are a family who brings people together from all walks of life to fight and heal in solidarity through the arts, health, and wellness. So here at WalkGoodLA, we really look at health and wellness from a holistic standpoint. It is about yoga, it is about mindfulness, it is about meditation, but it's also looking at the ways, again, in which how we connect with each other and how we make sense of the world. So it could be everything from dancing to performing arts to film and television to just being in communication, journaling. Everything is good at WalkGoodLA. Okay. And we really find different ways to express that and connect a little bit deeper with each other.
Yeah, and it's also rooted in our family and our culture. Walk good is a Jamaican euphemism that our grandmother used to tell us. And it's just a phrase. Like when you leave your house, like in every Jamaican family, like they just tell you walk good.
Walk
and
good.
It just means like come back home safely, get to your destination safely, make sure everything's good, but make sure you come back home.
Yes.
And everything that we do is rooted in our Jamaican heritage. And it's very beautiful to see the community that we've built through our culture. Because now there was a point in time in Los Angeles where you couldn't come to LA and really find Jamaican community, or, you know, we call ourselves Jamaicans, Jamaican Americans. And, you know, we're proud to be immigrant grandchild. I'm proud to be an immigrant's child.
What do you say? West Indian from West LA.
Always say I'm West Indian from West LA. But I'm so proud of that, because I think we are truly living and walking and being and breathing our ancestors' dreams. And that ancestor doesn't mean, you know, the people that were like, you know, the abolitionists, but our ancestor is our grandmother, you know, the late, great Ivy Ralph. You know, I always say, she ran so we could walk good. She ran good so we could walk good. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's one thing I love, because when people come to Walk Good, they're always like, oh, so you guys are walking around the city and this is a walking group? And while we do have Run Good and an actual walking group, it makes me feel good every time that I'm able to explain what Walk Good means. Because when people hear what Walk Good actually means, I feel like we're giving them a piece of our culture, we're giving them a piece of our family, and we're expanding and really putting on for Jamaica, you know, all the way here in LA. And there's not many Jamaicans out here, you know, or there is, but there's not a lot of spaces where you can feel safe and express that culture. So I love that there's so many more people now that are going to be like, all right, Walk Good, you know?
And it's really cool to hear that our community now, like when they leave and they know the meaning of Walk Good, they're like, Walk Good. And I'm like, what do you know about Walk Good? I'm like, what do you know about Walk Good?
And they're like, oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, we told you to Walk Good.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, we did that.
Walk Good, before it was WalkGoodLA, was actually a running protest, and it was called Twice as Hard. And Etienne, you know, inside the middle of this pandemic, he's a survivor of gun violence, and we're so happy that we have him today. But there was a moment in time where we weren't sure if he was going to be able to walk, if he was going to be able to run. And so when Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed on his run, that really hit all of us, but it also really meant a lot deeply to my cousin, Etienne. And so he brought us all together out there at the park, and he called it Twice as Hard, because we have to work twice as hard to get half as much. And at the time, it was the middle of the pandemic. It was 2020. And I'm a yoga instructor, and I was recently let go of my yoga gig that I just loved. And my cousin asked me, he said, you know, I want to do this running protest, and I want you to guide the stretches. And so I was not expecting as many people out there as it was. The biggest yoga class I've ever taught was about 30 people, and I thought that was big. And I got out there and I saw 200 people inside of this park. And Karuchi Tron being one of these people. We had actors from Euphoria that were out there. We had big people that were out there. And I remember going up to Etienne, I was like, do you still want me to do this? Because I was nervous. I didn't want to do it, but I did. And that moment, that 5 minutes, changed, I think, the trajectory for all of us, because we saw people then taking care of themselves. We saw people who had been stressed during the pandemic, people who are grieving, our brothers and sisters that we've seen shot and killed down on television. On the internet, we see these regurgitated images all the time, and we don't even understand what that does to our subconscious. On top of being let go of work, on top of being isolated from other people, it could be debilitating. So within that 5 minutes, we really saw people take a breath. And so Etienne and I looked at each other and we're like, wow, we need to continue to do this. And so Etienne was like, yep.
We gotta do this.
And so the next weekend we came back, and that was our very first Breathe Good. And it was about 30 people doing yoga in the park, and 30 quickly turned into 50. 50 turned into 100. And y'all, one day we turned around and there was 400 people inside of the park breathing good. So from Breathe Good, we were like, okay, we got to expand. We got to continue to create community. So we brought in Hike Good, our monthly community hike club. We brought in Run Good, our weekly run club. So far we've done Paint Good or Meditate and Paint series. We do You Good, Black men's healing circles, You Good Gal, Black women's healing circles. And again, it's all good at Walk Good. And I think that we did pretty good with the branding.
Yeah,
I think
so.
I think we did pretty good.
Another thing is that we really learned that movement is medicine. And I think why we have so many different sectors of Walk Good is because everybody heals and feels differently. So it's like there are some people that genuinely love to hike and be outdoors. So we've got that community. And then we've got that community that loves to simply do yoga outdoors. So we're able to cater to so many different audiences. And even starting this our space and having our center, we've realized that those other people that are outside with us are not the same community members that want to be inside a yoga space. So the crazy thing is that we're not just catering to one type of person, and we're not also just catering to one type of race. Like, we're really seeing all different types of colors come together, where you're Latino, Afro-Latino, Black, we've also seen like Middle Eastern, like Africans, so many different parts of the diaspora has really come together. And now we're also tapping into teaching yoga in Spanish. Like, we're not just catering to, the one specific type of person. I think we've diversified ourselves so beautifully that everybody feels welcome and they feel like WalkGoodLA is a safe space. This is a safe haven for people to come, congregate, and be with themselves. And I think how we've curated this space too is such a rich embrace of how we grew up. Like, you'll see the pictures of our families. So when you walk through the yoga space, through our studio into the yoga space, you'll see pictures of your grandmother in Kingston, where it's like, wow, this is something you would see at your grandmother's house. Like, it's familial. It's also familiar. And, we've also got our Zen Den space, where it's like, wow, this is the space where somebody can just have a great clean detox and take a deep breath and feel good about their day. And I think that is what we are really here to create. And we hope this is just the beginning of more safe spaces that we're able to create. Oh, honestly, this is powered by Black women and I'll also say, like, Walk Good is like the vision of a Black man, the soul of the Black woman, and the heartbeat of our ancestors. Like, I've always said that. But the reality is that there was a Black real estate agent who was a Black female that helped us find this space. Like, the unity of Black women supporting WalkGoodLA, 70% of our supporters at WalkGoodLA are Black women. Like, this is really the soul of who we are. And Marley and I think I'm grateful to be the women of WalkGoodLA. Like, this has shaped us not just as sisters, not just as cousins, but truly as leaders in our community. We can go to different spaces in the community. Like, I was checking out of Zara the other day, and the girl came up to me and she was like, "Oh, I know you." And I was like, "Yeah, girl, I know you. How you doing?" I did not know this woman. And she was like, "Yeah, Walk Good. I saw you at yoga on Sunday." And I was like, now this is crazy. Yeah. This is crazy how other women are coming to us and telling, like, just saying simply thank you. Say, I needed this space when I moved to LA. I needed this to really get out of the funk and the depression that I was in. Like, that's deep. That's deep. Because I'm like, also, we have to learn we're also still learning how to take what we're telling people and practicing that part. That's something that we as Black women will fall into, this superhero syndrome. And we're taking care of other people and we're not taking care of ourselves. And I'm so glad that I get to do this work with my cousin, because she's a consistent reminder of, you need to show up for other people, but you really need to show up for yourself.
I think that one thing we always say is that people need people. no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, people need people. And we are extremely blessed to be a family. And so when we walk out into the world, we know that we're always protected because our family is that tight. And Etienne, he knows a lot of people. And so I feel like whenever we go out somewhere, there's always somebody that's looking out for us and watching us. But when it comes to the ways that we communicate to each other, there are times where we have to learn each other's communication styles. We have to learn, each other's boundaries. We have to learn how to really not get caught up in this moment in time, but we have to look at the bigger picture. And I think that if all of us can do a better job at looking at the bigger picture, then we can start being more solution oriented. And that's just something that we have learned first as a family, because, it's not always easy working as a family, but we're rooted in love. And so learning each other's communication styles has been, I think, like just the chef's kiss, the cherry on top. But, men need women and women need men.
Period.
I'm here for that. And I think that that's represented. And I think that also too is that we need to continue making spaces for our men to heal, because as Ivy said, our community is majority women. And that's how it is normally when you go into a yoga studio, when you go into these healing spaces, it is majority women. And I think that sometimes because of societal standards, it's difficult for men to tap in to what, Etienne and some of our other male instructors have been able to tap into. And so I want to continue to actually support and encourage men to show up. I want to encourage women to encourage their men to show up. And I know that once one of us heals, then it's easier to have the other person heal as well. And then the other person heals, and then it just kind of spreads. It's like a domino effect, where if one person is doing better, then the other person's doing better, then we turn around and we're all here doing better together.
Yeah. Yeah, so honestly, On Running was a community partner for us, probably maybe year 2 when we started back in the park. So it was very organic, and we knew we wanted to grow with them. So when they approached us about, creating this collection, because they did approach us with the shoe, but then when we realized we're also going to be getting a shirt and a jacket and a short, we're like, oh, we really get to tell our story. And, like I said from the beginning, movement is medicine. And I think the greatest thing about creating a collection is when you feel good, you look good. And when you look good, you do good. And I'm so glad that we get to make wellness and fashion intersect, and tell our story through our red, gold, and green colors, and our Jamaican flag colors of the green, the yellow, and the black. And people can see it. And what the greatest thing was that the campaign name was Forward Ever, Backwards Never. And when there were riots of Jamaica really trying to find their independence, and really the politics of Jamaica were crazy back in the day, that was a slogan that they used to really empower the community. Forward ever, backwards never. And it was so beautiful because it resonated with what we're starting in our community. We're really telling people, move forward, forward, forward. And it was so beautiful to know that we could bring something that would happen in the past and revive it into the present. And people were learning a lot about the history of Jamaica. This wasn't just fashion that was, it was fashion that told a story. It wasn't just fashion to make people feel good. It was fashion that told people a story, and they could learn the history. And when we were able to display the collection at Pen Relays recently, people were telling me oh, this was a chant that we used to chant, back in the day in Jamaica. And I was like, this is crazy. We started this movement chanting in the streets, and I the best thing that I was scared to ask, but Etienne is so brave and courageous to ask for, was that in literally behind the tongue of the shoe, it says our grandee's name. It says Grandy. So when people walk good, literally in the sole of the shoe, it lives our grandmother's name. And I'm so grateful that people get to walk in our culture, they get to walk in the history, and they get to walk in the name of Ivy Ralph.
And mind you, our Grandy came to this country with literally on a boat.
On a boat.
With no shoes.
Grew up with no shoes.
With no shoes. Oh my gosh, I want to cry with that question.
Dang. I know exactly where I was.
Wow, yeah. No, you go ahead, because
No, I definitely was.
crazy thinking about that.
Yeah, I think in 2019, I know that I was going through a difficult patch with myself. I remember being just in a situation with somebody who I really knew was unhealthy for me. I really was trying to figure out what life was going to look like within the next year. And I knew at that moment, it was a pivotal moment where before the pandemic even hit, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I feel like in the pandemic, I didn't really struggle so much emotionally because I knew that I was going to go into 2020 with this mindset of like, I'm going to heal. I'm going to be better. I'm going to start running. I was training for a half marathon before the pandemic even started. Before everybody was running, I was like, I'm on this journey. And to be honest, COVID heightened that push for me. Like, I was like, oh, now I got everybody. Now everyone's on the same wave. You know, obviously that the healing looks different for all of us, and the reasoning and the meaning behind it was completely different for everyone. But for me, COVID was the push that I needed. It was the solitude that I needed. It was the stability that I needed. I needed to be still. I'm one of those individuals that is always up and running and moving. And to be honest, 2020 and 2019 forced me to stay in one place at one time. And for a long period of time, Marley and I were distant from each other. Like, I was living in New York, she was here. And we hadn't spent a lot of time together prior to like 2019 until, you know, Marley was also a big part of my healing journey because I knew that I wanted to make a change within my life. And that was truly through yoga. And even before we were training together, I was going to Marley's classes. She transformed me mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I was able to tap into a bigger part of myself that I didn't even know was like yearning to come out. Like, you know, I knew that I had a voice, but I didn't know how I was going to use it. I knew that I had potential, but I didn't know how I was going to prosper. And I think that's what 2019 pushed me into 2020 to evolve for us to create WalkGoodLA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That question sometimes makes me emotional because, just as Ivy said, we didn't know that we were going to be inside of this space in our hometown, literally 5 minutes away from where we grew up. We didn't know that we were going to go out into the park. We didn't know that the whole world was going to shut down and that this was going to happen. But I think about all of the steps that were already in place, and it feels like it was already written for us to be here and walking in our purpose the way that we are now. Because I look back and I'm like, okay, well, if I didn't get my teacher training, my 200-hour certification at the beginning of 2019, then I wouldn't have known how to guide that yoga class inside of the park. If you didn't come into my classes, then we wouldn't have already set that foundation of healing being a part of our relationship and us valuing that as a family first and foremost. So these are all things that we had to build on our own. And when I think about 2019, I was 22 and I knew nothing. I still don't know anything, but I know more than I did then. And I think that I'm so proud. I'm so proud that even in the hard times that we stayed the course. And this is what commitment looks like. And for a long time, I didn't know what it was to actually commit to something in my life. And this is my biggest commitment. This is my biggest gift so far. I think that the next biggest gift will probably be children for us.
Family.
One day, we're both single, but one day. But this space, WalkGoodLA, is really like our baby. It is really our baby. And we love it, we raise it, we nurture it, and we have to continue to nurture ourselves to be able to do this wholeheartedly. And so when I think back to 2019, there's a lot of stuff that happened and a lot of things that we didn't know, but I wouldn't change anything because it got us to where we were or to where we are now. 2020 for me personally, it was also a difficult year. I lost my best friend to a drug overdose. And that was also an eye opener for me, that life is precious. It was an eye opener for me that I wanted to make something big of myself, but I also wanted to make sure that other people knew that they are loved, that other people knew that if they're struggling with something like my best friend was struggling with, they have a space to come to and talk about it and move through it, and that they have people here that will understand them. And if they don't understand them, at least they'll listen. And so when that happened in 2020, amongst everything else that was happening in 2020, I knew that it was important to continue to show up, because you don't know what people are going through. And if we can have that space where people can go through whatever they need to go through and get to the other side, then I think that that's the best part of what we're doing.
It's a beautiful question. We know, I think, like, as Black women, people are always like, oh my God, you guys are so strong. You can do anything. You're resilient. But, like, honestly, I've truly learned through all of this is that I'm sensitive. Like, I really, like, I realize I'm an extrovert or an introvert with extroverted tendencies, like, I think I'm actually a really shy person. Like, I think I know that I can turn it on and be able to speak to a community. But when all of that is said and done, like, I really want to just take time and go to the beach. Like, I want to do the things that as a little girl made me happy. Like, that might be going to go shoot some hoops. That might be going to go listen to the water. That might be a river day or something like that. But, like, it's really not that serious. And I have to tell myself that I have to turn it off. Like, I can't force myself to keep going. You can't, if you're empty, you can't fill up anything. And I don't want to run myself on E. Like, I don't deserve that. And I have to remind myself that through no matter what struggle we're facing with ourselves or within our community, that I am worthy, and I am worthy of rest. Like, I know that outside of WalkGoodLA, Marley and I have other jobs. Like, Marley and I are both creatives in this industry of Hollywood, trying to make it and trying to figure it out. On top of that, that's not easy as well. But I'm so glad that, this is also a space of healing for ourselves. There are moments where I'm like, you know what? Let me just sit at the yard for a moment and, like, sit in the space that we created. Like, I'm glad that can be it. But I truly feel like there are days where I'm now learning that I have to tell the team and I have to tell my cousin, like, you know what? It's a day off and I'm going to go sit by the water. And I'm unapologetically happy about that. And I think, you have to remind people around you, because we work with a team. And so everybody else is also might be running on E, and we don't know what they're going through or their family situation. So no matter if we take a break, we have to remind everybody around us that you guys need to take a break too. So I like the water. The water is my resting space. I like the water.
Yeah. I like the water too. We're also both Capricorns. So we're both earth signs. So when we're by the water, it really, like, levels us out, because we could be very hardcore sometimes.
For sure.
And very work oriented. So being by the water, gives us some flow. For me, it's funny because stillness is hard for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm a yoga instructor, but I teach movement. And I love movement. I love moving my body in so many different shapes and forms. I love yoga. I love weightlifting. I love working out. I love running. I love boxing. And these are all ways that I move my body on a daily basis. I love dancing. And so for me, sometimes stillness can be hard because I get a lot of therapy through movement. But one thing that I always say is that yoga is a practice and not a perfect. And I also go to therapy as well. That's been something I've integrated this year into my practice. And my therapist encouraged me to find a word bank and switch out yoga for something else. And so I started saying things like, I am a practice and not a perfect, or life is a practice and not a perfect, rest is a practice and not a perfect. Because I think sometimes when you think you're supposed to be doing better, it creates a lot of pressure for all of the other things that you're doing inside of your life. And so when I start thinking about, okay, I am a practice and not a perfect, then I'm able to sit within it, and I'm able to take smaller steps of what it is I can use to actually integrate into my life. So even though rest for me is something I'm really working on in my everyday life, it's a practice. It's not a perfect. So today I might take 5 minutes of stillness. Tomorrow I might take an hour of stillness. The next day I might stay in bed all day long, but it's really taking that edge off of right or wrong. It's listening to my body. It's being clear. I love being in places. I love traveling. That's something that we also share. We love traveling. And when I am out seeing the world, seeing different cultures, connecting with different people, I'm able to listen to myself a little bit more clear and hear myself. And I love it when I'm able to hear myself because I know that I'm blocking out the noise. I know that my practice is now working. So I think that for me, it's really taking everything day by day and not putting so much pressure on myself and really leaning into those things that do make me feel good.
But I think like the best advice that I would give is the advice that our grandmother gave to me. And that was, what's for you can be on for you. What's for you will not miss you. And I think like it's so cliche, and it's really actually really hard to grasp because we go back and forth and we ask ourselves, why isn't it happening for me? Maybe it's just not supposed to be happening right now. And maybe you're supposed to be working on something else that's supposed to push you into that position or that place in life where you're supposed to be. But I have to realize that every stage of my life is a journey. And I realize that there are going to be super high highs and there's going to be super low lows. And I have to enjoy everything in between. But I know that I know that all that has happened to me has happened for me. And I want every young woman, a part of this sisterhood, to remember that what is for you will not pass you. And be grateful for everything you get to experience. Because at the top of one mountain is the bottom of another.
Oh, now she's preaching. Hold on.
Yeah.
Wow. I think, hold on, how do I follow up? Okay. I know how I'm gonna follow up.
Yeah, okay.
Something that her mother, my auntie Cheryl, said is, when you look into that mirror, you better say it with me. You better like what you see. I didn't say it right.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. When you look into that mirror, you better love what you see. And that is so much easier said than done. But again, going back to the practice.
Yeah.
And I really want young women to know that you are beautiful. You are smart. You have so much more to offer than you even know, than you even think. And sometimes you just have to look into that mirror and you have to be like, I'm a walking trophy.
Yeah.
I'm
a walking trophy.
You have to. Yeah. You have to look into the mirror and you have to big up yourself, because if you don't, you can't walk into the world and expect others to treat yourself that way if you are not treating yourself that way.
Yeah.
And again, it's so much easier said than done. And that's why we have to practice loving ourselves more. I would also say get really clear about what your values are.
Absolutely.
Get really clear about the things that are important to you. Is it family? Is it job? Is it seeing the world? Get clear about what your values are and then start speaking it out loud. Start walking in your truth, and just knowing that if you're walking in your truth, again, what's for you can't be unfor you.
Yeah.
What's for you will not miss you, as long as you are walking in your truth, in your purpose, and you're loving what you see.
So make sure you walk good. Yeah.
Walk good.
Walk good.
Walk good. Let me see you walk good.
Walk good. Walk good. Let me see you walk good.
Let me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part.
I think I can break it down actually by like emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So I think spiritually, my grandmother is my waymaker. I know that whether she's here with us or not, and I still feel like she is, like her spirit is still lives throughout this entire space. But Ivy Ralph, I know that her prayers are still guiding us through this entire force that we are creating within the community. I know that physically, my mom was that force to be a waymaker. I know that she has paved the way for so many young women in Hollywood. I know that she has actually had to burn some bridges and rebuild them for me to enter this space and be the young woman that I am. So Shirley Ralph, I think physically is my waymaker, and I definitely think emotionally, I think Marley is my waymaker, because I think that Marley really helped me with her practice through yoga, and I wouldn't be who I am, being introduced to the practice of who I am emotionally and tapping into that woman, and the putting myself on a pedestal of like, I need to know that I am worth it, and I have to really feel that and believe that, and I think you were a really big transitional part of me getting out of a situation that I knew I wasn't supposed to be in. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. I didn't know what my healing process was going to feel like, but I knew that Marley's class or talking to Marley was always a safe space for me emotionally. And I knew that everything was going to be all right. And then I think also another one, is Lorraine Tucker, Miss May. She's the woman who raised us. I think that's another emotional spirit, that the waymaker that lives within me. So yeah, those are the ladies of my life, Ivy Ralph, Shirley Ralph, Marley Ralph, and Lorraine Tucker. Yes.
Love that. Wow. Yeah. Oh, my waymakers. I definitely have to start with my mom. My mom was a single mom, and she really put a lot of things on hold and sacrificed a lot to be able to raise myself and my little brother Max. And I know that there are things in life that she really wanted to do, but she loved her children, and so she put it on hold. And so I think that she is my waymaker because of her strength, because of her tenacity to keep going, because of her love to really show my brother and I that no matter what, she will always answer that phone. And that is something I do not take for granted, okay? Calling my mom and her picking up, I just wish it could last forever. So my mom is definitely my number one. Ivy Coco is... No, for real, is no, for real, my girl. Ever since we were little, like ever since probably the day I was born, Ivy Coco and I have been singing our way, and dancing our way through life together. She's also somebody I know that will always pick up the phone for me, and whether I'm laughing or crying, you have so many words of wisdom. And I just always think that in the back of my mind, I'm always like, dang, I wish every girl in the world had a big sister cousin like Ivy Coco. I swear, like that's another thing I would give younger girls, is to get you an Ivy Coco, because, you speak so much power into my life. And I know that you are just somebody that is always going to be in my corner, and I will always be in your corner no matter what. And it's always crazy to me that like we were born 5 days apart.
Legit.
Like we're both Capricorns. Growing up, we lived 5 minutes apart. So, you've always been a constant in my life, and I'm just grateful to God. Yeah. I would also have to say my Auntie Cheryl is a huge, like we have the same ones.
Yeah.
But my Auntie Cheryl is like a force.
Yes.
She's a force to be reckoned with. And for her to really have her moment right now at her age just shows that you should never give up. That you should never give up if you have a dream, to keep on pushing and keep on going. And I've always looked up to her, and I've always been able to put one foot in front of the other, because I see my Auntie Cheryl and what she's making happen. So I know I can make it happen too if my Auntie Cheryl is doing it. Grandy.
Yeah.
May. Yeah. We do. We're from the same family. So, but one person, you know, that's an icon is Oprah Winfrey. She's always been somebody that I look up to. And I remember in college, I was a journalism minor, and people would always ask me, you know, what do you want to be after school? And I'd always be like, I want to be the next Oprah. I want to talk. I want to talk about spirituality. I want to talk about health and wellness. I want to talk about people's stories. I want to be in movies. I want to that trajectory. I think that Oprah has showed us that there is no limits, and there are no limits for a Black woman. Okay. And so, yeah, those are some of my Waymakers.
Yeah, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at WalkGoodLA, or make sure you come take a class with us and get to know more about all of our offerings that we have, and follow us at the WalkGood Yard. And make sure to follow us personally on our pages at IvyCoco23
and at Namaste Marley Rae.